Good afternoon. This is a meeting of the Ethics Board for Baltimore City for Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. It's 2:33 p.m. My name is Steve Fogelman. I'm the chair. We'll call the meeting to order. I'll let you know that all participants in this public session of the board meeting acknowledge and consent to the video and audio recording of the public session and the publication of the recording on the board's website and social media accounts. Furthermore, per the Open Meetings Act, the board discloses that it adjourned its virtual open meeting on March 13th, 2024 to enter into administrative session at approximately 3:10 p.m. 4 board members were present. Members discussed administrative matters, including complaints. Likewise, the board may need to close some or all of this meeting to preserve the confidentiality maintained or mandated by the Ethics Code or is otherwise authorized by the State Open Meetings Act. Upon adjournment of the open session, the board may reconvene for an administrative session to discuss non-public administrative functions of the board. Good afternoon, members and guests. Members, do we have any scheduling conflicts this afternoon?
Steve, if we can finish up the public and the administrative session by 4, that would be really good, because I really got to get going.
I second that emotion. So I think we're all on board with that on this beautiful day as well. Let's turn to the written minutes of March 13th. Anybody have a chance to review those? I'll assume that you did.
I did, and I have no corrections, and unless there's some discussion, I'd move to adopt the public meeting minutes for March 13th. If that's
and I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion at all? Hearing none, I hear a motion and a second. All in favor of approving? Noelle, you've raised your hand.
Just to say all in favor.
Okay, great. All right. All in favor, say aye. We see no one. Thank you. We are unanimously approving the public session minutes of March 13th, 2024. Let's go ahead and skip to new business at this time. I'll go ahead and do them alphabetically unless Chris or Nishan, you know a reason why I should.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. We'll start with the Mayor's Back to School Pep Rally from the Mayor's Office of Family and Children's Success. Gifts its solicitation with. Who do we have with us today?
I'm Miss Jeanette Brown and Noelle Nugay.
Great. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon.
You want to tell us just a little bit about the application and the proceeds, where they'll go, and what you're doing?
Yep, nope, that sounds good. Yeah, thank you. So the Mayor's annual Back to School Festival, it is held annually right before the start of school. Every year we have some funds that are already dedicated that we kind of budget for this particular festival, but it has grown exponentially every year. Last year we saw about 4,000 families that we were able to give book bags to and supplies, full book bags and supplies. All those proceeds will go towards the book bags, the supplies that we put in all of the book bags from K all the way up until 12th grade. We also provide a free on-site festival with resources to families, working with a lot of other agencies, but we also provide free meals for those thousands of families that attend. We also have entertainment, guests, and partner with local organizations to have a stage there and entertainment. So it is very much a big back to school festival where we service the youth in Baltimore City and throughout the city. And last year we spent in excess of around $125,000. We have major partners and sponsors that also usually come in. Xfinity is usually a really big partner. Downtown Locker Room is another big partner. Under Armour is also partner and make donations. But of course, we also know that prices have gone up. So we try to have an idea around how much the supplies will cost for per book bag when we're stuffing them with the needs that they have. We partner with Baltimore City Public Schools and talk to them about what they are looking for in the upcoming school year so that we are on par with what it is that they would like their the youth and young people to come to school equipped with, along with additional resources at that time. So we're asking to be allowed to solicit and from organizations, solicit widely so that everyone can participate and donate as they need. Baltimore Civic Fund is the fiscal agent for our back to school rally, and they oversee the funding, and they sort of they oversee the funding for solicitation. We have a QGive page that will be active, so people can donate those funds online, and any funds that are in excess will roll over to the following year.
Great. Ed, how many years has this been going on? It seems like a while.
Yes, this is from what I historically, and if Jeanette might know, or if anyone else, but this historically has been an annual event of every mayor that I've been aware of in my tenure in Baltimore City. That every mayor has some form of a back to school rally or festival.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Luque. Any questions, members?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm Arnold Sampson. How you doing?
Hi, Mr. Sampson.
My question is, how are donations acknowledged?
The donations are, so there are tiers of donations that you can give. Of course, it's an option to give any amount is not too little. But those particular sponsors, if you donate any amount at all, then your name is put in our signage. So if you get put on the main flyer, you get a thank you, and then our executive director sends out thank you emails at the end of the festival to anyone who has we'll do that electronically, like thank you emails and letters of acknowledgement of their support. But any of those larger donors like Xfinity and Downtown Locker Room, they have their signage put on the mayor's stage as we activate the space, and on the signage that we'll have throughout the back to school festival on the footprint outside of City Hall.
Okay. Is there a minimum amount that triggers a acknowledgement, or will every donation that comes in that has an identifiable source receive an acknowledgement and a thank you?
It is $2,500 or more. I believe that was the one that I think that's the package that has it. And let me pull this the sponsorship package up right now.
Okay.
To be concerned.
So is it more a sponsorship program rather than a pure charity drive? Because as soon as we have sponsorships involved, then we're leaving the plane of the gift and are going into kind of a quasi contract, something for something, not the gift something for nothing.
I am pulling up the Civic Fund.
And the concern that I've raised, and thank you for looking, is I'm concerned about the appearance of nothing for something. In other words, a person sends in $100 and they get no acknowledgement, no thank you, no sense of accomplishment of they did something. And where I'm going with that is, our city has been plagued with embarrassing situations in the past of a over-familiarization, perhaps, over-familiarity, perhaps, of between decision-making officials and people who have contributed money or something. And we're trying to get us to distance ourselves from that. We have an ethics board now that really is trying to make sure that everything is on the up and up, that no one has false hopes that something they do will buy them favor. And so I'm asking you that, and not, trust me, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, because you
Mhm.
presented it very, very well. I'm just, however, inquiring as part of my diligence in this role, to make sure that there is some acknowledgement that your donation was received, it's appreciated, but that's all you're gonna get. That's it. Don't later send a letter to the mayor asking for X, please.
Yes, absolutely. And no, I completely understand your, you know, what you're asking. So I went back to our sponsorship packet to just be a little bit more clear around is it okay if would you mind if I share my screen, or do you want me to just read from it?
No, share your screen if you want.
Please share. Please.
Okay.
Could you also read it as well? Because I'm on a pretty small phone, so
Yes, no problem.
thank you.
Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna scroll a little bit. So the sponsorship packet, I'm just make sure you guys can see this. This is the save the date. It's actually quite cute. We have a cute little girl here. We talk about the commitment here. We talk about the event in and of itself, about it being a free annual event for the whole family. And then we talk about, we have some stats and data here about the attendees that we've had since this team has taken over the event in MOCFS. We talk about the meals and the snacks that have been served, and that's where, you know, a bulk of the that we spend some money there, and the 4,000 stuffed backpacks that have distributed there. So we talk about being a sponsor and the multiple sponsorship packets that are available. So these are the sponsorship levels. We kind of named them synonymous with school, like branding, valedictorian, salutatorian, senior, 5K, junior, sponsorship levels to 1K. And then the other ways to support, people can just donate supplies, hygiene products, because we also have those for our unhoused youth that are that need supplies as well, and support them. But we started, and I correct myself, that it is a $1,000 donation that would have the brand or marketing material, etc. But as I had mentioned before, if anyone sends any donation in, they would get an appreciation or thank you letter again after the event is over, from it is emailed in an e-format from our executive director, but they also get notificate like a thank you from like the civic from HiSook and their CEO there as well. So any donation gets acknowledgement of anything that anyone has done. So we acknowledge all folks that donate no matter what. But this is the packet that has that would be put together, and this will go through the Civic Fund. As you can see, the contact information has Phil Smith down there at the Baltimore Civic Fund for that. And there's a QGive page that folks can do and donate those funds online. So there'll be a role, I guess, there will be record of obviously if they're donating, of who would donate funds.
All right. Any other questions? I have one.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
For me, Noel.
Mhm.
Hello, Noel.
Hi.
Hi. So just following up on Chris Amberger's point in reference to differentiation of sponsorship and donation. It looks like it's mundane, the items that you will get for sponsoring, but you deem that as the same as a donation, correct?
I'm sorry. I want to make sure that I understand. You're saying that
I mean, you might not have heard Mr. Amberger's comment, but when mentioning that this was a sponsorship package, he did mention the difference between just a donation and a sponsorship. Correct, Chris?
That is correct. So really, in this proposal, in this waiver application, the only thing that the board really has to should look at is the other ways to support because as soon as we have a well-structured sponsorship program with different levels that is marketed to a wide level of potential sponsors, we're leaving the realm of gifts that is within the jurisdiction of the ethics board, and we're moving into a contract or contract-like scenario, which does not require ethics board approval. That would be entirely Board of Estimates approval, or finance department approval. So the board, what is before the board really properly is the small donations or donations in general that are not associated with the sponsorship.
So
Okay.
essentially, the donations that you anticipate will not be a part of the sponsorship. If I give 1,000, I will receive brand marketing and so forth. But the donations of the $20 and the $30, or just some people may realize that you need additional backpacks at the last minute and may have to buy some.
Yeah.
I
And,
think-
and if they want to donate $1,000 cash and have no representation on the sponsorship list, then that is a pure donation. That is not a sponsorship and not kind of a quasi contractual arrangement.
So essentially, we're asking your procedures for that, the donations. The sponsorship package is beautiful, and appears very effective and professional. But for the people who may donate without an agreement for quid pro quo, will it be similar? Will you have a process in place to make sure that they don't get preferential treatment and so forth? And essentially, I'm sure that's and it looks like it's in your application. So I guess that you're affirming that now.
Yes, ma'am. And let me, I'm listening, and I am, if we would, is it the QGIve page? And let me see if it is live. I'm not sure if it is, but if we should we just include any additional language at all that makes it clear? Hold on, let me, I'm gonna pull this up right now because I want to make sure everything is in decency and order, because I do not play about those things. Hold on. Okay, so this is the QGIve page that would go live, and it'll be run through the Civic Fund would manage this. It sort of has the same level of information, but just condensed as the actual sponsorship package. And Phil Smith would be, again, managing that. They have the different levels of sponsorship, but then there's also individual donations here that would be an option. And then hold on, and then it just says the Baltimore Civic Fund is a tax-exempt 501c3, whatever. So do we need, with your suggestion, to ensure that if folks, let's just say they're donating hygienic, materials, anything, they would all send it to the Civic Fund and we would pick it up from them. We wouldn't have them send to City Hall. Civic Fund would be managing that, along with the additional, any like donations would come to QGIve, or if they wanted to send money, it would go to the Civic Fund. It wouldn't come to us. It would just go to the account line that we have with Civic Fund for the mayor's back to school rally that we have with them. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything in order to be clear with anyone who would donate either items or the $1,000 cash gift, but doesn't want full sponsorship packaging, like you said, sir. I just want to make sure that it's clear.
So there is no difference between a monetary donation and in-kind donation, like stuff and book bags and pencils and whatever. I think the only thing that would need to be clarified in the waiver petition is that this is kind of a dual track program that involves sponsorships. And on that page where you say choose your gift, I would, and the board can agree or not agree, I would rephrase it into choose your level of sponsorship, and then have the sponsorship just separate from the gift, and the gift is really what is before the board, the gift petition. So the board does not have to, rule on or provide input. Of course, they can on the sponsorship levels, but all that is before the board is the gift, and that is the individual gift of both, or corporate gift of both money or in kind without acknowledgement as a sponsor.
Understood.
All right, and Ms. Lugay, this has been approved by the Board of Estimates already, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, I feel like the contract issue has already been
Yeah.
dealt with by the appropriate jurisdictional authority. So we are only here to talk about the non-sponsorship gifts to grant that application. Based
Understood.
on that, does anyone else have any other questions?
Don't
Right,
believe.
Go ahead.
No, I don't believe so. I think you answered in affirmative that you have a process in terms of identifying controlled donors and so forth. So.
All right, and Ms. Lugay, are you able to make that brief amendment to the application? It says it's a two-part process, one for non-sponsorship level gifts and the other for sponsorship level gifts.
Yes, I am just getting that language. And yes, and we will amend it. It is which particular line, Mr. Fogelman, would you want us to amend
Well,
that?
I'm going to defer that to Mr. Amberger, and he'll be happy to work with you offline.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about that after the meeting or tomorrow when you have time.
Okay, cool. Yes, because I know that we have to get off at 4 o'clock. Yes, with closed and open meetings. Yes, I heard the request. So yes, thank you. I will connect with you directly, myself and Ms. Brown. I appreciate all of your time and your input.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great talking with you.
You all
Likewise.
too. Thanks. Bye.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve subject to the amendments described herein?
I move.
All
I
right, John,
second.
second by Noel. All in favor of approving the back to school pep rally application pursuant to the amendment or conditioned on the amendment we've discussed here and signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
4. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving on the LGBTQ affairs application from the mayor's office of the same name. Good afternoon. Do we have someone with us from the mayor's office of LGBTQ affairs?
Yes, Miss Alexis Blackman.
Great. Good afternoon, Ms. Blackman.
I'm wondering if maybe she stepped away for the restroom or something.
She's
I mean,
on mute for sure.
Oh, okay. Let's, we can go through this without her. We do it all the time when people aren't here. Or do you want to move on? Preferences?
I would rather move on since she's already on here and
Yeah.
most will come back.
All right, let's do that. Let's go to Mayor's Office of Economic Development or Employment Development, excuse me, waiver application. We find that.
Good afternoon. My name is David Higgins. I'm the agency chief financial officer, and I'm joined with Raleigh Grant, who is our chief compliance and contract officer. I would like to preference before we start that we're pitching for the organization that really oversees the solicitation of the funds from using Baltimore Civic funds. But we try our best to answer any questions that you may have about the program.
Okay. Questions, members?
Not yet.
Okay. For some reason, this is the only one that I don't have the documentation in front of me right now.
I don't know if it was hard for you to open, but
Yeah.
The PDF, the link didn't work for me for some reason.
Maybe you could just briefly outline what amount was sought and what projects the funds are intended for.
Yeah.
Okay, we solicit donations in support of our Summer Youth Works program. This is a program that we provide payment of minimum wages to youth participants from the age of 14 to 21 for a 5-week program for 25 hours a week. We use Baltimore Civic Fund as a financial sponsor to select private donations from several sources. Our ethic filings are on a quarterly basis. So, we, I think last year program, we received almost $2.4 million in private donation through Baltimore Civic Fund. That's just a fraction of the cost of the total program. The program exceeds $12 million per summer, and is funded from other sources, state and city government.
So this is a repeat, really, performance, so to say. You've had board approval and board of estimates approval for this or a similar fund drive last year.
Yes, this program has been in existence for decades. We even hire people now who worked in the program when they were teenagers. So the mayor actually was once a summer youth participant as well.
Great. Thank you. It's pretty historical. Do we have any questions?
I guess I'm sorry, I do. I wanted to be quiet, but I gather from the gentleman said that $12 million comes from city and state, and succeeded in raising a little over $2 million last year. I wish you'd please say again, I just missed it. I think a phone call came in. What it is you're going to use the money received in donations for again?
The money we use is we actually pay the youth participant their wages from the money from businesses that are generally small businesses that hire under I think has under 25 employees. I think there's some other criteria, I'm not sure, but if a business fit this criteria, we would pay the employee directly using the funds we solicited. Some private industry will pay the employees who provided the work site directly. I think that's a small percentage as well. I think in the past we've been paying directly to the youth participants from about 500 different work sites. So the majority of the work sites that these summer youth will work for, we're paying their salaries to work for the summer. So that's what the funds are used for.
And you anticipate, based on previous years' participation, you anticipate which size population turning out for this coming summer?
Yeah, we do have some numbers. We have almost 13,000 youth registered, but we only have about 8,000 sites. So we're still working on trying to find additional sites. I think I'm not sure if this is the last week for us to finalize, but before we close out the opening to provide businesses to participate in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a large turnout. This is kind of going back to the participant level is going back to pre-COVID numbers.
Great.
That's larger than I expected. Thank you.
Yeah, same here.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much for being here, sir, and both of you, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. You're welcome very much.
Have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye now.
Thank you. All right, any discussion on this? This is another one that's pretty familiar to those of us who have been around City Hall for a few years. And it doesn't look like anything has changed. Doesn't sound like anything has changed. Any discussion?
When you say that, Steve, does this mean that this has come up for approval before
Yeah, like every year for 20 years.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I've never heard of any problem with it. It is a big project, and yeah, it's but it's always, there's never been any issue or any, for all I remember, any reporting intricacies or idiosyncrasies. So I don't see any problem behind. Right. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I move that we approve that the petition to allow this donation process to be underway.
Second.
Right. Smooth seconded for approval for employment development summer solicitation waiver application summer program. All in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That's unanimous. And do we have Ms. Blackman? Is she available?
I wonder if
Yes,
Ms.
I'm
Blackman-
here. I'm sorry. I'm here. I
Hey,
do
thanks for
apologize.
we're going to go ahead and consider your solicitation waiver at this time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the application and the program?
Yes.
Project?
So my office is fairly new. It's a fairly new office. We don't have an extensive budget or extensive staff. So this waiver in itself is to raise funds to help me to kind of outsource to outbuild my office, to be able to get some help from, you know, contractors, people who will be able to help me to do things. I'm kind of looking to be able to hire a fiduciary officer that will be able to help me identify grants for my demographic that my office will be able to continually apply for, which will kind of make ourselves self-solvent. Also, I'm asking in this fund for a portion of it to be general funds that we will be able to use. Sometimes, being so that my office's budget comes in the mayoralty, I have events that I have to sponsor and stuff, but I just don't have the budget. The civic fund would help me to raise money and get donations from our community here locally that would help us to further these projects or initiatives.
Yeah, I agree that it would, and I'm generally supportive of it. I guess I'm just, as a city voter, just a little incredulous that you don't have any budget from the city council. So
we do have some budget, but so the way that mayoralities fall is I don't have my own specific budget. Their mayoralty has its own budget, and they did budget us for some positions, which I am getting one person to come in that I just interviewed for. I would like to expand the office, and realistically speaking, I would need funds to be able to attract comparable talent to help me in a fiduciary manner to grow. So that's majorly why I'm here.
I thought we were simpatico. I think we're the only board that has no budget at all. So anyway, are there any other questions, members? No questions.
No.
All right, and who's gonna hold this? Civic Fund.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions based on that? All right, well, Blackman, thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me, and thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
You got it. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
All right, members, any discussions?
Yeah, I thought the Civic Fund was a passive repository for monies, and trusted repository for monies received that need to be earmarked for specific and certain causes. And I thought either from that young lady's commentary or the gentleman who preceded her, someone say that the Civic Fund could help them, sponsor them, or something that sounded more active than passive. Did I mishear that? And am I misconstruing what the Civic Fund does?
I don't think so, but I think I mean, you can even see in the application, they talk about how the Civic Fund is the one who, provides the scope for some of these operations. I do think it would be interesting to have somebody from the Civic Fund present to us at some point.
As it happens, I talked to Ms. Chung last week in regard to the upcoming 3 projects, and she volunteered to come to one of our next board meetings and give you an introduction to what the Civic Fund does, which is not just the collecting and then handing out money to wherever it goes, but there's actually a deeper structure associated with that, with the Civic Fund, that assists in making the proper decisions as to who qualifies for funds and so on. So it is not just a receptacle. It is actually it appears to be a very well-run organization that, to my knowledge, hasn't had any scandal attached to it, which is quite an accomplishment. So yeah, if the board agrees, we can schedule that at one of the next meetings, and she would be happy to give you an introduction.
Yeah.
Would you say, Steve?
I was saying, for one, I'm pretty excited about that. I dreamed of it, and you're telling me it's happening at the next meeting, so can't get more efficient than that. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd love to hear her comments. I remember us meeting with her once before. Very pleasant, very articulate director. But I guess part of this is stuff because I think I heard Mayor Scott make reference to the Civic Fund in the context of contributing to the bridge tragedy and I thought that money was all earmarked for different projects and causes, and I didn't know that it could be drawn upon in a situation like this one that occurred with the Key Bridge.
So Arnold, the next 3 application waivers all touch on Key Bridge charitable waivers. The Civic Fund also has the capacity to solicit donations on its own behalf. So it is not just an agent of the city, but it also has the capacity to act as a principal in its own fundraising capacity, and then attribute funds that are raised for specific purposes back to the city if needed, or to other institutions or entities.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
All right. Any further discussion? Anybody want to move to approve this solicitation paper application pending the Board of Estimates endorsement? Well, I'll go ahead and that motion then, that pending the BOE endorsement, that we approve the solicitation waiver application. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All right, all in favor of the approval of the solicitation waiver application before us from the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs, signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
At 3?
Yes, it's 3.
All right, 3-1. Thank you very much. All right, we'll go ahead and move into the last half of the business here, starting with the Key Bridge Emergency Response Solicitation Waiver Application from the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. We have someone with us, I'm sure.
I don't believe so. Director Rodriguez. Oh, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this would be Director Rodriguez. This is the solicitation that was fast-tracked 2 weeks ago using the agreement, or the basic agreement of the Ethics Board with the Office of Emergency Management that would permit for such fast track in the case of emergencies. The board provided preliminary approval for that, contingent on Board of Estimates approval, without which our board approval does not even toll. And the Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Immigrant Affairs.
Immigrant Affairs, I'm sorry, is really applying here to convert this into a non-temporary, into a not permanent, at least annual permit. And the board had a contingency in its preliminary approval that the law department got involved to draft specific processes and policies as to how the money was supposed to be allocated and who was entitled to receive the money. I was informed that the civic fund is or takes that role in allocation and is set up to make those decisions in conjunction with the sponsoring agency. And Ms. Smith, if you want to supplement my sketchy.
I thought
How
I
you
thought
doing?
your overview was great, but I'm happy to provide more context about the use of the account too, if members would like that.
We'd like
But
that.
okay, so this account was one that was pre-existing and been set up during COVID for emergency response with immigrant communities in the city, and is now being repurposed to respond to the Key Bridge collapse, specifically in supporting the families of the victims directly. And this is happening through like partnerships with a few community-based organizations that are doing both case management and providing crisis services to the families as well. So they're assisting in identifying those needs, and that's what this fund will be intended to do.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
both the Francis Scott Key collapse response and the Key Bridge emergency response. So we have D and F on the
Oh, I see.
on the agenda. So there's several, in other words, there's several funds and several waivers for, if not the same, then very similar projects.
Thank you. All right, members, any discussion or questions for Ms. Smith?
I have one question. I noticed in your item 2 that was filled out by Ms. Rodriguez in reference to parole services as well. So I noticed costs related to funeral expenses, medical costs, food, and other. In reference to parole services, do you believe that's a collateral issue due to the Key Bridge? Or is that just to expand all the immigrant affairs to include that?
No, the accounts, the funds for this are supposed to be explicitly for the families. I'm wondering, I apologize, I didn't do this application, so I haven't seen it, but I'm wondering if that's actually talking about the costs for, in some cases, sending the bodies back to other countries.
I think that was the scope of the first application, yes.
It says humanitarian parole services, so that may be.
Okay, yeah, yes.
You know what that term means outside of what I view it as just parole. So I might look at a different perspective. But if it
it's about it. I think it's related to that, and also allowing maybe family members that don't have a visa to come to America to grieve with the family, or if they do the funeral services here, so helping with that. And they're working, it's Esperanza Center that's doing the case management. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're okay. I don't want to assume things, but they're working with different consulates and immigration attorneys to do all sorts of that. And so we'll be helping with the invoicing for any costs that might come up with that.
And the application indicates that it's not going to be any direct solicitation, but through speeches, such as, do we have any speeches coming up?
No, I would say that the intent isn't that there will be going out and soliciting meetings with specific people, but during different, announcements or at different events. And honestly, a lot of people are proactively asking, where can I give money? So just, those types of engagements. So it's not like going out with a fundraising plan saying meet with X, Y, and Z individual, but
Just a
broadly
subset.
sharing, this is what the purpose of the fund is if you want to give here.
Okay, so my understanding is it's setting up an infrastructure because so many people want to donate and to the cause that we can have ready and available for them. All right.
Yes.
Have any other questions? Thanks for the clarification.
Any other questions from our members?
Yeah, this is really just a picky question. I'm trying to understand what MIMA stands for. It doesn't seem to match up with Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs.
Yeah, but, okay, but I know, but it's MIMA.
Right.
There's
Mayor's
yeah.
Immigrant, Multicultural, of Immigrant and Multicultural Affairs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right.
Question answered. Very
I
good.
think it used to be a different name and has changed at some point over the last 10 years.
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
I've been wondering that question for so long.
We were all afraid to ask it.
Exactly.
Well, I guess this is recorded, but I could be mistaken, but that's what I think that the answer is.
Works
It's really
for me.
not germane to your application, but I was curious, so sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a valid question.
Thank you for being here and thanks for the work you guys are doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, members, do we want to discuss this? Questions are answered. I guess the biggest question is, do we want to go ahead and move to approve both the Key Bridge emergency response application and the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse response efforts application together?
I move that we consider those two applications together as causes that warrant our attention and perhaps our approval.
But I'll second that. All in favor to treat these together and vote on these together, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye or nay.
Aye. I think we all said aye.
Okay.
Aye for me.
All right, so that's unanimous. So can I have a motion to approve both of these applications at this time?
Motion.
Accepted,
Second.
seconded by and Arnold. All in favor of approving both the Key Bridge emergency response application and the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse response efforts applications, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. It's
Thank
unanimous.
you for supporting.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
It's a good cause.
All right, and that'll leave us with the request from Councilman Z. Cohen's office, food fund for port workers affected by Key Bridge collapse application. Do we have Maggie or someone else?
We
online?
do. Yeah.
Right. How are you doing?
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Great. Always a good time when I get to spend part of my Wednesday afternoon with this crowd. But yes, we submitted this food fund for consideration. I think a couple things to just name. This came out of some kind of immediate requests or just sort of contact that Zeke has had with some union leads, some of the longshoremen who are just thinking about, I think in the sort of aftermath of the collapse, there had been several funds set up related to obviously supporting the families of the victims. But there was kind of already some thinking about what are the long-term implications for furloughed or sort of reduced hour workers, especially as it relates to food insecurity. So we would, I think, not really, I think there's not a sort of a clear vision of what this looks like just yet, but Zeke wanted the flexibility of being able to potentially, and especially I think on behalf of the Maryland Food Bank, do some potential solicitation. We, in an initial conversation with the president of the food bank, just to kind of understand what their resources are and reactions to, they have some thoughts on some ways to long-term support the port workers through things like mobile pantries and through weekly food boxes delivered to them from the food bank. But obviously, that there will be kind of you know, a likely a need for additional funds for that. So that is that's kind of where we are, and hoping you all know you'll ask some great questions, and then happy to answer them.
So Maggie, you're saying that it's going to be in kind and monetary donations?
Yeah, so I think there are there are maybe two potential routes that it may be at both and Steve, thank you for putting that sort of part back on the top of my brain to actually share. One thought was if there are in-kind restaurants that would like to be able to donate either to the food bank or through potentially a reduction in a discounted reduction in their menu cost for, say, someone who has an ILA card, being able to sort of have that lane of the work for people who, would still like to be able to go out to a restaurant every once in a while, but then also doing some potential direct solicitation on behalf of the Maryland Food Bank. All to say, I don't know that we would ultimately need a fiscal sponsor, because I think in either of these two pathways, Zeke did talk to the Civic Fund, which could stand up an account. But I think ultimately, as we've been kind of thinking about it in the intervening week or so, it seems more likely that it would be in kind, with restaurants donating some kind of discount, and then also or with people directly donating to the Maryland Food Bank.
But yet the Civic Fund will be keeping the tabs on it.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And they'd be prepared to host it if ultimately there needs to be a fiscal sponsorship.
Very well. Questions, members?
So Maggie, understanding that this is a work in progress, and thanks for your candor in reference to that, and understanding that one aspect would be that restaurants would provide a discount. So your target audience of longshoremen would go there and would show their card and get a discounted meal.
I think that's Noel, I think you said it right, in that both parts, in that we're sort of still kind of building the ship and thinking about, we actually, what we're hoping is kind of coming out of this conversation is to then, just have, our next step is to meet with some of the union leaders to say, what do you all need? Because I think right now we've been doing a lot of speculating, but don't actually know what, it may be that they're like, we're not going to be able to go to a restaurant, even if it's 30% off. So I think the idea was really to be able to have some flexibility coming into the conversation with those union leaders to say, based on what you're hearing from your port workers, what is the need? Is the need mobile pantries? Is the need boxed groceries? Is the need some partnerships with some restaurants?
Okay. And so that's where the Maryland Food Bank would come in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mobile pantry and the food boxes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no, thanks, Noel.
All right. Any other questions for the Chief of Staff?
I do have a question, and I don't think this is really for Maggie necessarily, but I just want to put this question out there, and maybe this would be a great one for the Baltimore Civic Fund when they come and talk to us. But in this particular program or other programs that are administered by the Baltimore Civic Fund, I'm wondering what happens. Maybe this is a problem that you'd like to have, but what happens if the donations exceed the need to a significant extent? I can see an outpouring of donations and then maybe a surplus of funds.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a great problem to have?
Yeah, that would be a great problem. But I think it's kind of an issue that I'm curious about. What happens to all this money?
I'm happy to answer just from our vantage point using one specific example, which is, and this was a fund that was solicited for kind of before my tenure, but it was a democracy building workshop series that council members Cohen and I believe Burnett put together. They ended up having, I think, about $2,200 in leftover funds after the program had run its course. And so, all to say, kind of, John, I think what you're describing, they had not exactly the same thing, but they ended up, spending less than they needed. And so we worked with the Civic Fund to find a lane of to expend that money in a very similar manner that was, so looking at the vision by which sort of the solicitation was kind of written in terms of what was the small scope of what this meant. And it was around community organizing and training related to helping to boost civic engagement and democracy. And so we were able to kind of come to the Civic Fund and say, we think we have this other additional opportunity that is not the exact one that we applied for, but is very adjacent. And they agreed that it was in the same lane. And so we were able to use the money for that. So that's how it worked in that case. I don't know, though, what their sort of general approach is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here. If there's no other questions, you're a frequent appearer on this program. So you always enjoy your.
I know, long time listener, long time caller.
Thank you. All right, very well. Members, do we have any discussion on this? It's been admittedly, it's put together in response to a disaster. So there may be some amendments to be made down the road on this, but on its face, is there any other discussion about it?
No, not for me.
Anybody want to move to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Arnold, and we have a motion to approve the charitable and governmental gift solicitation waiver application for the food fund for port workers affected by the Key Bridge collapse. All in favor of said approval signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Appreciate all you do. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Beautiful day. Old business. Do we have any old business, Chris? I know we want to hear from the staff, but
yeah. Well, the old business is old by now. We seek back the opinion of the circuit court in the matter of the board's appeal to the Maryland Public Information Board's decision, and the court, in a very concise and very clear opinion written by Judge Fletcher Hill, sided with the board's interpretation of the NPIA, and that's really the only thing to say about that. And the other, just as a side note, Jeff Hochstetter, who was my predecessor in my position here, is leaving the law department and for the private law world.
oh boy.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Me.
City's laws, yeah. Yeah, well, all right. That's that news. All right, he's served us well, and he's we appreciate it, really do.
Yes.
So this month we have also this month we have done or responded to over 600. I think it was 603 yesterday. Responses for advice, advisories, guidance so far this year. So that is
When are we
our
due?
entrance into the numbers.
We're due April 30th, right?
No, we're fiscal year. The April 30th is the deadline for the financial disclosures.
That's what I'm worried about. Okay, yeah. Put a little calendar, put it on the calendar for me and everybody else here. And any other staff update?
For the ethics training, we had 25 people completed in March, bringing our total to 264. We received one complaint this month, bringing our total to 21, right, Chris? I believe 21.
So yes.
And then we had 6 gift solicitation waivers for this meeting. Still 14 active, 1 expired before this meeting. And I think that's it, pretty much.
Great. All right. And somebody raised their hand recently. I continue to do these meetings on an iPhone, and
Yeah, it was me.
it was you.
Don't worry
Okay.
about it.
I wanna make- No. Is there anything to add, Nahshon, to this report?
No.
All right. Perfect. At this time, it looks like we've concluded all of the business in a public session, if I am not mistaken, on our agenda. So if there's no objection, we'll go ahead and conclude and adjourn this public session of the board. Thank you. We are adjourned.